She was crying when she was shooting her free throws. This happened about a month and a half ago. Now, I know some of y'all might already know who I'm talking about. She was instrumental in the Fever making it throughout the postseason. Well, making it close to get to the postseason, I'll say that. That is Ari McDonald, bruh. Annie Constable just put out moments ago that Ari McDonald is out for the season. This is a devastating blow to the Indiana Fever.
A broken bone in her right foot. That's the official diagnosis that just ended Ari McDonald's 2025 season with the Indiana Fever before it even started. And if you think this is just another routine injury report, you're missing what this actually means. Because the Fever just lost the one player who proved she could carry the offense when Caitlin Clark went to the bench. The one guard who could create her own shot, get her own buckets, and keep defenses honest when the franchise player needed a breather. That player is now gone for the entire 2025 season and possibly into 2026, depending on recovery timelines.
You know, like, I know people feel a certain type of way about these women playing unrivaled and all these different things. I don't know, man. I guess they signed up for that. Now, we don't have any update on the CBA negotiations, but this is a very, very, very bad blow for the Indiana Fever basketball team. I don't believe they have released any information in regards to Ari McDonald being hurt.
Let's be clear about what Ari McDonald brought to Indiana last season. When Clark sat down during games, the Fever's offense didn't just slow down, it often completely stalled. They tried other options at backup point guard. Odyssey Sims got minutes. Aerial Powers came in when McDonald was unavailable, but none of them could do what Ari did, which was go out there and actually score without needing the offense designed around them. She averaged 6.8 points per game in limited minutes, but that number doesn't capture her actual value. When the Fever made their playoff push in the second half of last season, McDonald's ability to spell Clark for meaningful stretches without the offense collapsing was critical. Now think about the timing of this injury. McDonald was playing in Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league that launched this winter. She broke her foot during that competition, which means she was injured while playing in an off-season league designed to keep WNBA players from going overseas. The league that's supposed to be the solution to the financial pressures that force players abroad just cost the Fever their backup point guard for an entire season.
Nope. So they haven't said anything yet. I'm on the Indiana Fever X account. They haven't said nothing about Ari McDonald. Last post was an hour ago. Said Leah Boston heating up with Team Phantom after 10 games. She's averaging a double-double and leading the league with 1.8 BPG. And yeah, man. Now Ari McDonald is doing a podcast for Unrivaled. I don't know, guys. This is just a very, 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 very bad.
Here's what makes this situation even more complicated. The WNBA and the Players Union are currently in the middle of intense CBA negotiations. The players are pushing for 30% of gross revenue, which would be a massive increase from the current structure. They want supermax contracts that go beyond the current $250,000 ceiling. They're asking for better facilities, guaranteed housing, improved travel conditions, all reasonable requests for professional athletes. But the league's counterproposal tells you everything about their financial concerns. According to ESPN's reporting, the WNBA projects that agreeing to the players' demands would result in a $700 million loss over the course of the new agreement. $700 million. The league is arguing that this kind of financial structure would jeopardize the WNBA's long-term viability. And now, in the middle of these negotiations about player compensation and working conditions, one of the league's playoff teams just lost a rotation player to an injury sustained in an off-season league.
On Friday included some concessions on housing and facility. I think we might have read this article last video, but as of right now, nothing more, nothing less has changed. It says as part of the housing, they offering housing now, man. It says here in its previous proposal, maximum salaries, including revenue sharing, payouts would approximately be $1.3 million in 2026 and were projected to be $2 million in 2031.
The league's latest proposal does include some concessions. They're offering housing now, which has been a major sticking point. Revenue sharing payouts would start at $1.3 million in 2026 and potentially reach $2 million by 2031. The average player salary, including revenue sharing, is projected to hit $540,000 by 2026. Those are real increases, but the Players' Union is holding firm on that 30% gross revenue number, which the league defines as revenue before deducting expenses. The gap between the two positions isn't just about money, it's about fundamentally different visions of what the WNBA's financial model should look like, and here's where the Ari McDonald injury becomes relevant to this bigger picture. Players go to Unrivaled, or overseas to Europe, or to other off-season leagues, because WNBA salaries alone aren't enough for most players to live on year-round. Even with the proposed increases, most WNBA players will still need additional income, which means they'll keep playing in off-season leagues, which means more injuries like this one. McDonald is the first player we know of who's out for 2025 due to an off-season injury, but she probably won't be the last.
Projected the union's plan would result in $700 million loss over the course of the agreement, and that would jeopardize the league financial health. So I'm guessing, right, they want this money, but the money could hurt the league long term if they try to get this 30% revenue share that they're trying to get. I don't believe that they're going to get it. We just got to wait and see, man. Get down in the comment section. Let me know y'all.
Let's talk about what Indiana's options are now. They need a backup point guard who can actually run an offense. Shea Petty is still in the organization, but she's more of an emergency option than a reliable rotation player. The Fever could look at free agency, but the pool of available point guards who can create their own shot is extremely limited. They could try to make a trade, but that means giving up assets for a backup position. Or they could go young, draft a point guard, and hope a rookie can handle backup minutes on a team with championship aspirations. None of those options are ideal. The Fever spent the entire 2024 season building chemistry, figuring out rotations, developing an identity as a team that could compete with the league's elite. They made the playoffs for the first time in years. Clark had a historic rookie season. The organization finally had momentum, and now they're heading into 2025 with a significant hole in their rotation and no obvious solution.
But as it's being reported, according to Annie Constable, she is out, bro. She is out, and this is going to, I feel like this is going to hurt the Fever. And if they don't get somebody to fill in for Ari McDonald, get that solid backup, somebody that can come in and get buckets. See, the thing I liked about Ari McDonald is she can go out there and she can get her own bucket.
Watch that clip again and pay attention to what he's saying about McDonald's value. She was instrumental in the Fever making it through the season, getting close to real playoff success. That's not an exaggeration. During the final month of the regular season, when every game mattered and the Fever were fighting for playoff positioning, McDonald's minutes were crucial. She gave them a secondary ball handler who could break down defenses, hit mid-range shots, and make quick decisions in transition. The Fever's offense last season was built around Clark's playmaking, obviously. But when she sat, the entire system had to adjust. McDonald was the only player on the roster who could run a similar style of offense, who could push pace and create advantages off the dribble. Without her, Indiana's bench units struggled to generate quality shots. Now they're facing an entire season without that security blanket.
Make sure you guys keep them bells on. I will be back with another video, and let me know how y'all like the short formatted videos. I like them, bro. It's quick, fast, right to the point, and definitely let me know. I'm currently out of the studio. She'll be back in the studio at some point today. My son's still playing this tournament. Till next time, man, shake the headers off. I'm out of here, bro. Peace out.
There's another layer to this that nobody's really talking about yet. McDonald was also doing media work for Unrivaled, hosting a podcast covering the league. So she wasn't just playing in the off-season league, she was actively involved in promoting it, building her personal brand, creating content, all things that WNBA players are encouraged to do because it helps grow their individual platforms and theoretically helps grow interest in women's basketball overall. But now she's injured, and that podcast work doesn't pay her medical bills or replace her lost WNBA salary. Unrivaled provides insurance for injuries that happen during their games, but that doesn't change the fact that McDonald will miss an entire WNBA season. She'll miss a year of development, a year of building chemistry with her teammates, a year of playoff experience, and she'll miss out on whatever the new CBA ends up paying players because she won't be on the court to earn it.
And I just really hate this for Ari McDonald. Let's keep her lifted up with good energy, good prayers, because it is going to be a road to recovery for her as we get ready to potentially start the 2026 season.
Here's what makes this significant for the broader WNBA landscape. The league is at a crossroads right now. Television ratings were up significantly in 2024, driven largely by the Clark effect, but also by increased overall interest in the product. Attendance was up across the league. Merchandise sales broke records. The WNBA is more visible and more popular than it's ever been. Expansion is coming, with new teams set to join the league over the next few years. This should be a moment of celebration and growth. But behind all that positive momentum, there are serious structural questions that haven't been answered. How do you keep players healthy when they need to play year-round to make a living? How do you build team chemistry when rosters turn over constantly because players are chasing international contracts? How do you develop young talent when your best players are exhausted from playing 11 months a year? The Ari McDonald injury is a small example of a much larger problem. The Indiana Fever are going to be fine, probably. They have Caitlin Clark, who is already one of the best players in the league and will only get better. They have Aaliyah Boston anchoring the front court. They have pieces around those two stars that can compete with anyone. Losing McDonald hurts, but it's not catastrophic for their championship hopes. They'll find someone to fill those backup minutes, even if that person isn't quite as good as McDonald was. But think about what this means for McDonald herself. She's 27 years old, entering what should be the prime years of her career. She's coming off a season where she proved she belongs in a playoff team's rotation. She was positioned to potentially earn a bigger contract, to solidify her place in the league, to build on the success she had in 2024. Now she's facing a long rehabilitation process, months of uncertainty about when she'll be able to play again, and the very real possibility that she misses not just 2025, but part of 2026 as well. And for what? For the opportunity to make some additional money in an off-season league, because her WNBA salary wasn't enough to live on comfortably. That's the reality for most players in this league. The stars make good money, especially with endorsements and international contracts. But the role players, the bench players, the Ari McDonalds of the world, they're grinding year-round just to make a decent living playing professional basketball. The CBA negotiations are supposed to fix this. Higher salaries, better revenue sharing, improved working conditions. All of that is on the table right now. But even if the players get everything they're asking for, it's not clear that it will be enough to keep them from playing overseas or in off-season leagues. The financial gap between the WNBA and international leagues is still significant. European teams can offer six-figure contracts for a few months of work. That's hard to turn down, even with improved WNBA salaries, so we're stuck in this cycle. Players need additional income, so they play year-round, which increases injury risk, which costs them playing time and money, which makes them need to play even more to make up for lost earnings. The McDonald injury is just the latest example of this cycle playing out. She's the first player we know about who's out for 2025 due to an off-season injury, but the season hasn't even started yet. How many more players will get hurt before opening night? How many more will miss time because they're exhausted from playing 11 months straight? The Indiana Fever will move on. They'll sign someone, draft someone, trade for someone. They'll figure out their backup point guard situation, and they'll compete for a championship. Caitlin Clark will be spectacular, Aaliyah Boston will dominate inside, and the team will be fine. But Ari McDonald will be watching from the sidelines, rehabbing a broken foot she suffered while trying to earn a living wage playing the sport she's dedicated her life to. And that's the part of this story that should make everyone uncomfortable. Because if the WNBA is really growing, if the league is really more popular and more profitable than ever before, then players like Ari McDonald shouldn't have to risk their careers playing in off-season leagues just to pay their bills. They shouldn't have to choose between financial security and their long-term health. And teams like the Indiana Fever shouldn't have to lose rotation players to injuries that happen thousands of miles away from their facility, in leagues they have no control over. So the question becomes, what's the actual solution here? Higher salaries help, but they don't solve everything. Better insurance and injury coverage help, but they don't prevent injuries from happening. Restricting players from off-season leagues isn't realistic or fair. You can't tell professional athletes they're not allowed to earn money in the off-season. That's not how any other professional sport works. Maybe the answer is that the WNBA needs to accept that this is just part of the reality of being a growing league. Players will play overseas, some will get hurt, teams will have to deal with unexpected injuries and roster complications. That's just the cost of doing business until the league can afford to pay everyone enough that off-season work becomes optional rather than necessary. But if that's the case, then teams and fans need to adjust their expectations accordingly. You can't build long-term championship contenders if your roster is constantly in flux due to overseas commitments and off-season injuries. The Ari McDonald situation is a microcosm of all these larger issues. It's one injury, one player, one team, but it represents the challenges that the entire league is facing as it tries to grow and professionalize while still operating on a relatively limited budget. The CBA negotiations will determine a lot about the WNBA's future, whether players get the revenue sharing they're asking for, whether salaries increase enough to make off-season leagues optional, whether the league can afford to invest in the kind of infrastructure and support that would make it truly competitive with international leagues. For now, the Indiana Fever are dealing with the immediate reality of losing a key rotation player for an entire season. Caitlin Clark will have to carry more of the offensive load. The coaching staff will have to find creative solutions for backup point guard minutes. The front office will have to make roster decisions without knowing exactly how long McDonald will be out. And Ari McDonald herself will have to navigate the long, difficult process of recovering from a broken foot and trying to get back to the level she was at before the injury. It's a reminder that for all the growth and positive momentum in the WNBA right now, there are still fundamental challenges that haven't been solved. And until they are, we're going to keep seeing stories like this one. Talented players getting hurt in off-season leagues, teams losing key contributors to preventable injuries, and everyone involved trying to figure out how to build a sustainable model for professional women's basketball. The Ari McDonald injury might seem like a small story in the grand scheme of things, but it's actually a perfect illustration of everything the WNBA is still trying to figure out.